going on, guys? It's Uche Joku Sneaker Principal, and welcome to this episode of the Sneaker Principal podcast, I'm a little out of breath. I'm packing up my hotel room right now. Not hotel room, but my retreat room. I'm over here in Kripalu, which is a wellness, meditation, relaxation, retreat in the Berkshires here in Massachusetts. It is gorgeous right now. The sun is beaming in, and but it's freezing outside. I think right now it's something like, let me check real quick. The temperature right now is 17 degrees. So yeah, it's freezing. But nonetheless, this is the last day. I've been here since Friday evening. This is Sunday morning, and I have a session this morning to attend from 9 till noon. So what I'm trying to do here is finish packing up, put my stuff in the car, go get some breakfast, and then hit the 9 o'clock session. So far, it's been a pretty good experience. I've been here a couple of times before. This is my third time here in Kripalu, and I'm here with the Gray Fellows, which is a fellowship based out of Hunter College, founded by one of my good friends and colleagues and classmate at Columbia University. Really geared around, it's really focused on supporting principals, school leaders on being transformational leaders through mindfulness practices, which is something that's very important, because in the work that we do, we speak so much about mindfulness practices for our students, for our families, even for our teachers. But as principals, we're kind of relegated to being on the sidelines as far as providing the supports, but not really getting supports ourselves. Because when we're talking about mindfulness practices and you talk to students, yeah, you have a cohort of students, kids together, who are learning together. When you have teachers, same thing. You might have your staff, and everybody on your staff is working together towards these things. But what ends up happening is the needs and the wants of school leaders are not necessarily addressed, because we're usually one-offs as principals. And if you have a team of administrators like assistant principals, then you might be 2 of you or maybe 3 of you, depending how big your school is. But it's not the most conducive space to really engage in learning about mindfulness practices and really developing your practice. So what ends up happening, principals are kind of like the providers, and we kind of stand on the sideline. And we know it's important. We know it's good stuff, but we're not necessarily catered to, and provided for when it comes to things like this. So the fact that this exists is very, very important, because it speaks to there being recognition of a need to really support school leaders, because school leaders carry a lot of weight. We carry a lot of weight. We deal with so much on a day-to-day basis that people don't ever understand. They just assume the principal has it easy. They're always in your office, but you don't understand. We're always in our office because there's all these things happening outside of the office that forces us to do compliance work to make sure all these other things are taken care of. And so we don't really get to really engage. And then when things happen, bad things happen in your school, guess whose shoulders it falls on? If there's a fight, that's basic. You have the deeds and stuff like that. But when there's serious things, it falls on the principal's shoulders. As a principal, you walk into a school that's failing, guess what happens now? As soon as you walk in there from day one, it's your responsibility. It's failing because of you. It's not failing because it was failing for years and there were systemic issues that created that situation. It becomes fully your responsibility. And then now you carry that weight and that burden, because if things are not moving quick enough and things are not getting better, the question comes down to you. What are you doing? You're incompetent. You're not showing instructional leadership. You're not following this. You're not doing that. But no one's addressing the fact that these issues existed for such a long time, and several principals might have tried to work it out and were not successful. But then the district leadership themselves, who are backing, supposed to be backing the principals and those district leadership supports, they weren't able to make any difference as well. But guess what, though? All that falls on the principal's shoulders, and then you wonder why some school leaders are so, I'll be honest, mean, or stressed out, because what happens is now you're carrying the responsibilities. You believe that it's you, and your whole self-worth is wrapped up around your school. And who pays for it? You do, of course. Your family does. Your health does. Your mental state does. And not realizing that if there's some way to put things into perspective, give you the ability to calm yourself down and breathe and think through what you're going through, and tapping into yourself and your core, with a clear mind and a clear spirit, you probably would be more effective in the work that you're doing as a school leader. You know, um, and I know that for me personally, that a lot of the changes in how I move and how I think came as part of my initial training at Teachers College, Columbia University, as part of the Summer Principals Academy, and we had self-awareness training, SAT. I remember asking myself, "What are we doing here?" You know, graduate program for school leadership, but every day started with self-awareness training for about an hour. We would walk into a classroom, dumb early, and sit there and breathe and meditate and journal and be self-reflective. Something that I didn't know could go hand in hand with leading. And that's where my practices first started. And that was, wow, 2009, 2010. And then, and of course, that was just like the introduction to that space. And I've always appreciated mindfulness as being part of what we give our school community. But it wasn't until 2019 that I applied to be part of this new fellowship, the Gray Fellows. And Principal Kevin Frauner, Dr. Frauner, who was my classmate at Columbia, started this as part of his Con Fellows project, and I was also a Con Fellow a couple of years down after him. Um, and the Con Fellows is another fellowship focused towards supporting exceptional school leaders nationwide. And but his project was this, creating a space for school leaders to be able to work on themselves for the betterment of their lives, communities, schools, families, all the above. Things that we don't talk about. We make the work of being a school leader about just the job, not realizing that it's not just a job. It is a it is a it's a all-consuming experience being a principal, being an assistant principal, being a superintendent. Because at the end of the day, the things that you have to deal with is beyond the job. It has ramifications beyond the job. It has an impact on the lives of people, of human beings, children, staff members, your own family. You know, every child has to have an education. It has to be provided an an education. It's not even something that's contested. It's just something that's pure fact. And with that being said, um, we have to make sure that we're providing um, uh, not just the one, two, threes and ABCs of the classroom. We're providing them with the things, the tools that they need to be successful as human beings. But it's kind of hard to do that if the people who are providing those tools are struggling as human beings. So yeah, so I'm kind of repeating myself now. So this is the importance of this weekend. It's kind of reconvening, and I got to meet some folks from Chicago who are who joined us as well. And I'm an old head. I mean, I'm from the first cohort, um, and um, and one other person from that cohort is the original 18, was here this weekend as well. And I just take the opportunity whenever I can, if invited, to show up. And I'll tell you, I show up because, of course, I'm a believer in the work, but also I show up because I need. I also need the tune-ups, the reminders about this work, um, and I'm grateful because this work has been very helpful as far as allowing me to be a leader, to be a better human being, and to be also better to myself. As far as just making sure that um, I'm able to really quiet the noise in my head and making sure that I'm doing the things that I need to do to make sure that I'm my best self, in my best positioning as a as a human. Um, but I'm sharing all this to let you know that how important it is for you, regardless of whether you're an educator or or whatever it is that you're doing with your life, to find spaces to really take care of yourself. Mental health is a real thing, and a lot of us struggle. We all struggle. I mean, I'm not saying a lot of us. We all struggle. We all have our moments of doubt, of just like the noise that kind of like takes over our state of being. And I work very hard to make sure that I recognize when I'm off, or when I'm in that space where I know that maybe I'm not being kind to myself, because I'm struggling with something, or the noise takes over. Now, you guys, the noise when you start questioning everything that you're doing, or you start just not being kind to yourself. I don't know how else better to put it, but there's a state that we find ourselves in where we're just not being kind to ourselves, and we're just being like, self-deprecating and all those things, or even worse, we let other people's words, whether intentional or unintentional, kind of like take over, and we start to like build in our heads this narrative that of not being good enough, or whatever it may be. So yeah, I'm packing up. Um, Now I just got to figure out whether I'm not. Because right now it's a quarter after, so I have 45 minutes for breakfast, I believe. I hope I have 45 minutes for breakfast. If not, it's going to be fruit and some cereal with some oat milk. But yeah. The only thing that sucks now is I have a 2.5 hour drive. Hopefully, nothing more than that, back to the city. Um, Fortunately, I have a very good with me, um, colleague, an amazing school leader. So the company is definitely welcomed. Long drive. You know how those long drives are sometimes. You're like, oh, it's much better when you're not, you're in your own head by yourself. But sometimes that's welcome too. I don't mind driving by myself, but it's much faster if you drive with someone else. Um, yeah. So, but yeah, I just wanted in this episode to talk to you, really about, what I'm doing today. But I'm hoping that this allows you the space to also think about how you take care of yourself, and it doesn't mean that you have to go to a retreat or things like this, but just allowing yourself the moments to reflect and sink into yourself and listen to yourself and make sure that you're being kind to yourself is very, very important, because we live in a world where these things are so uncommon. It should be common, but it's so uncommon because we're so caught up with the rat race. We're always running and running and running and running. And before you know it, we wake up one day and we're, you know, at the tail end of our lives, or even worse, we are fallen illness or some other tragedy, and we're filled with regrets I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have been this person. Wish I could have been this way. And it's painful. And I know I've seen it with people that I care about, and I'm working very hard to, like I said earlier, just be a better human, especially to myself first. Because if I'm a better human to myself, then my kids and those that I love will get the best of me versus the worst of me, whatever that may be. All right, y'all. Uche and Joku, Sneaker Principal. I'm going to go ahead and finish this stuff and head out. And till next time.